Jason Hoffman. Bridget Edson.
I'm present.
Mindy Benson.
Present.
Michelle Bischoff.
I see she's here.
Curtis Logan.
I'm here.
David Ness.
Here.
Dan Schaefer. Dan Fank. Jason Schlutenhofer. Rhonda Broadus.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Haley Nichols, I think she's going to be gone. Cindy Height. Peter Huffman.
Peter Huffman, Iowa DOT.
Michael Strausser.
Michael Strasser here.
Keith Hove.
Keith Hove, DPS.
Patrick Updike.
Patrick Updike, Iowa Department of Corrections.
Blake Dorsey.
I am here. I'm with Iowa Homeland Security and Emergency Management.
Jessica Churba.
I am here, Office of the CIO.
And do we have any legislative members on? I don't believe so. And we do have a quorum.
Thank you. I think I see Jason Hoffman is also on the line.
Okay.
Anyone else that we missed earlier? Board members?
Cindy Hike is here.
Cindy's here. Okay.
Michelle Bishop is here.
Okay.
All right. I really don't have much for welcoming remarks other than interoperability. We learn with every natural disaster how critical it is. Fortunately, the headlines have been about how well people have come together and worked together afterwards, but it really drives home the importance of each and every discipline and our ability to work across disciplines. So emergency management can talk to the sheriff, can talk to the fire responders, on and on, as we all recognize, but felt it appropriate to mention our thanks to everybody, and with the widespread tornadoes we recently had and storm season we're entering. So thank you for that, and we'll move on to approval of today's agenda. Entertain a motion.
Bischoff will move.
Benson will second.
Bischoff and Benson, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting minutes from February 10th.
Ike will move.
Benson second.
Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed. Motion carries. Chris, the SWIC report, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Yes.
Super, thank you. We'll have an update on how the system fared probably later on in the meeting with the tornadoes and all that stuff. But so far, the system fared very, very well, and Scott should be able to cover that pretty in depth so far. On to some interstate interoperability notes. No real change with our project with Minnesota. I know we got them some programming information recently, and they're still waiting on some equipment to get installed. But that is in motion. When that's ready to go, we'll have some enhanced capability with our counties that are just north of our border, which is a good thing. Also had a scoping call with the state of Illinois a couple of weeks ago regarding taking our interstate interoperability step further. You may recall that we have an MOU with them that has been executed for access to both STARCOM 21 and Isicsb for agencies along the border. we're going to be looking at possibly doing some procedural things similar to what we've done with Minnesota going forward. We're going to have another state-to-state scoping call here relatively soon, and then from there we're going to start working with the local agencies along the border, because we have a lot of eager participants to make this really work across the Mississippi River, which is very exciting and encouraging. We are still working on some duratio coordination response with respect to the SDR deployment in Clinton. That deployment is still steady state, but it sounds like it's starting to wind down. As that deployment winds down and that trailer comes back in, we're going to have to put it under some maintenance to make sure it's ready to go for the next deployment. And then it'll be staged for potential future use. It looks like at this time that it will probably be out for the Ragbri route as well. So just keep that in mind, especially towards the late July timeframe, that resource may be out on the road. With respect to that deployment, our reimbursement has come through and is now in the board's account. That'll be covered under the finance report. So that's good to get that wrapped up. Recently with the grant that was awarded, we purchased 25 cash radios. Those radios have been delivered and we're in the process of getting those programmed. We are still waiting on the spare batteries, gang chargers, and the remote speaker mics, though, as a couple of those items are held up a little bit through the supply chain issues, but when they arrive, everything will be set up and ready to go. With respect to offerings that are coming up for training, Rhonda will be able to cover that a little bit later, I believe, in Haley's absence, but we have been working on a couple of things. And then one last big item of note from the stuff I've been doing recently within the state, we are working on updates with Status Board. That source code is with the developer, and we're working on getting that rolled out hopefully soon. Some initial work has been done on that. We've been able to make it appear in a mobile device, which is great. We're working on some of the sizing and scaling to see what it's going to take to get that to look presentable on a mobile device, but we have made some good progress with that. And as that project continues to move on, I will report out on that. Just a heads up for everybody, I am in Arlington, Virginia right now at some federal meetings, and this is part of a joint meeting with SAFECOM and the National Council of Statewide Interoperability Coordinators. Anything that's relevant to Iowa, I will bring back here, but I will hopefully offer some words of encouragement to the board that some of the work we've done recently on some of our products, such as encryption and all of our interoperability standards, we are right up there with some of the more advanced states at this point. And that's a testament to the work that this board has done over the last, I believe the board's existed for 14 years now. So there's been a lot of good, nice accomplishments collectively with this group here and all of its participants. And I do want to extend a tremendous thank you out to everybody who's participated in these committees over time and with this board. We have made some tremendous advancements, especially when we compare ourselves to other states. That's my report for the month, Mr. Chair. I can go ahead and take any questions.
All right, hearing none, we'll move on to 911 Council report with Program Manager Blake DeRucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The 911 Council met just prior to the Isicsb meeting. That meeting is already posted on our YouTube page if you are interested in reviewing it. Some highlights from that. February 23rd, we did hold the inaugural PSAP leadership training. That was a course that we developed over the last number of years, actually, to address what we saw was a gap in training those in charge of operating 911 centers. So 41 people attended, and we also recorded that training and broke it into segments. So if you're interested in that course, you can review what we recorded. If you don't have access to our shared online portal, we can help you get that. But also we are planning to offer that training a couple times throughout the year. So at some point as we go throughout this year, we will probably offer that again and spread the word if you are interested in attending that. We also completed a biennial expenditure report that is assigned to us, that is required to be submitted by the PSAPs. So every year they have to submit expenditure report data to us regardless of revenue fund. So every other year that we have to submit that document to the legislature. That was submitted earlier in February. Also, there is an audit component to that. That audit was also released and is available on the auditor's website. Let me check my notes here, see if there's anything else. We did approve a child's activity and coloring book. That's another thing that we've been working on through our 911 strategic plan. So that will be published and available for locals to print, but also get their hands on a few hard copies that we're printing as well. So we approved an expenditure to print about 1,000 English copies and 250 Spanish copies of that. Again, we'll make that file available to anyone who's interested, as well as some hard copies for those interested. If you are wanting those, just shoot me a note after the email or after the meeting, and I will get you the link to claim those. I think that concludes my briefing. If there's any questions, I'll take them.
All right, hearing none, thank you for the report and for the offer. Move on to item 8, the user group committee. I'm not sure if Chair Schlutenhofer is presenting or Vice Chair Dennert or Chris.
Yeah, if Mr. Dennert's not able to cover it, I can. The user group committee met last month. We reviewed 4 applications for approval. All were found to be appropriate for approval and have been moved onto the board underneath new business, and we can kind of go over them more in detail there.
Thank you. On to the Finance Committee.
Right. So the Finance Committee has had an interesting month, or at least our bank account has. You can see there that our reimbursement from HSEMD for our deployment in Clinton is reflected on our current balance. Our expenditures for last month, in addition to that, were $15,777.33. That leaves us with a remaining balance of $205,497.59 for the Broadband and Interoperability Fund. I can go ahead and take any questions.
Hearing none, we'll move on to governance with Chair Hoffman.
The governance committee met on Monday. We had no new business to discuss. So there was a little information sharing regarding the status of the policies that are out for public comment, and we adjourn.
Thank you. Move on to the Operations Committee with Chair Bischoff.
Thank you, Chair. Operations met on the 16th of February, and we had a conversation regarding the Motorola Next radios and how the Viki feature works. Viki, if you're unfamiliar, Viki is kind of similar in nature to a Siri or a Hey Google, where it will take your voice command and perform operations on the radio. We just had a conversation in regards to how our talk group names work with Viki, and perhaps in the future we need to have some consideration for how advanced technology uses our talk group names and what's allowable on the system for renaming or simplifying or the talk group name to begin with. So we just had kind of a fact-finding, hey, this is out there kind of conversation for awareness, and more research needs to be done. And we're waiting for comments back on the encryption, and I would encourage everyone to read those policies and provide comments, both if there are issues or if an individual is in support of the documents as written. Are there any questions for operations?
All right, thank you. Outreach Committee, Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Holly got the newsletter out again after the board meeting concluded last month. Lots of good information in that, along with a link to the encrypted documents for public comment. Again, as Operations Chair Bischoff said, please feel free to read through those and comment on those. We're interested in any and all feedback. I would like to highlight that Holly is looking for some members within the public safety community to add to her spotlight. So if you know of anybody or you yourself want to be included in that spotlight, please get in touch with her and let her know, and she'll take care of the rest. Otherwise, that's the report for the month, Mr. Chair. Go ahead and take any questions.
Hearing none, we'll move on to the training committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Rhonda stepping in for Chair Nichols. I'd like to report for the tactical dispatcher course. We have 7 people signed up. That again is going to be in Marshall County in May 16th through the 19th. Westcom will host the COM-L course. Just as a reminder, those participants have to have the ICS 300. A request was put in for that. That was denied through CISA. Chris is working on trying to see if the online course may be honored through that. He can go ahead and report on that portion of it. We are looking for a host for the CompT course. That's going to be in mid to early June. Haley did reach out to Bremer Waverly PD. She's waiting to hear back on the Civic Center there. And then there's going to be a COMEX held later in the fall in Creston, Union County. And that's all I have, Chair.
Well, that is much. Thank you. Technology.
Thank you. The Technology Committee met on February 24th and March 1st. Just some updates here first. We're still dealing with the loading analysis discussion. We've kind of tabled that for right now. We'll come back to that later. One of the other discussions that we had was about radio over IP, discussing at least 2 ways to use radio over IP in a conventional setting and a trunk setting. And ultimately, the idea was to reach out to the stakeholders through some type of survey to get their input on what they would think radio over IP could be used for. So, Chris, I don't know if you want to follow up with that, but we want to get an idea from the stakeholders out there what they would have for input on a radio over IP type setting.
Right, Patrick.
The other thing that, go ahead.
I was going to say, radio over IP is a pretty deep topic that presents a lot of nuances. And as Patrick said, that survey is going to be important to understanding what's out there, what things are capable of at this point, but then also who has an established reputation for delivering that type of product. We've had some instances before where I know myself, I get some emails from these vendors about radio over IP connections, but then you go and look them up on the internet and they're not there anymore. So it is something that we do need to take a thorough look at and be very pragmatic about. So thank you.
Thanks. The other thing that's come up is the licensing for the 700 meg air-to-ground frequencies and the 700 megahertz nationwide deployable trunk system channels. Swick Myers brought that to our attention, and so if you look at that link that I sent, it's from the updated NIFOG handbook, and in previous versions of that handbook, there was wording that did not appear, and right at the top of, if you look at the air-to-ground channels, at the top of that segment, it says licensing required. These frequencies are not covered by the blanket authorization for nationwide interoperability channels. Use of these channels must be licensed or authorized by special temporary authority. So the question becomes, at least the way I read this, I don't know if there's some hidden meaning to it. If you're not covered by a blanket authorization for nationwide interoperability, my question is, do we have to license them if we're operating within the boundaries of our state? If we're going outside the state for interoperability on these channels, is that what that's saying? You would have to license it for that. obviously the special temporary authority is something else. And so I know we will probably, I want to get more information on this, because the other thing that I want to find out for sure is if you look at the bottom of that page as it relates to the 700 air-to-ground frequencies, it says states are responsible for the administration of these channels, which you can say we've done that through policy, procedure, standards, and so on. But now I'm going to start asking questions. What does that mean? What does the responsible for administration of these channels entail? And how does this all work together? So I know Chris has reached out to some of his contacts. I did try to establish a phone call with the FCC and an email with the FCC. I haven't heard anything back from them, but I hope to get information as it relates to this for both the air-to-ground and the deployable frequencies, because there's some hope in the future that those nationwide deployable trunk system channels can be implemented in the STRs. So once we get that information, I will get that out to the group. And that's all I have, unless you have some questions.
All right, thanks for the report. Hearing none, we'll move on to the FirstNet Broadband Committee with Chair Bischoff.
Yes, the FirstNet Broadband Subcommittee met on Tuesday this week and had a great conversation on the offerings that AT&T has in regards to messaging, being able to take CAD messages and send them out to individual devices, and the control that's available there through different formats. So it was a very informative session, and if you are interested in having your CAD system send messages to your devices, I would encourage you to reach out to Tyler Richard, and he can connect you with the with that service so you can receive greater information about that. It's just a more reliable way that takes email servers out of the picture of doing messaging out of CAD systems. So it was very informative, and otherwise we just had our standard updates that we'll hear from Kevin and Tyler when we get to other reports. Are there any questions regarding FirstNet broadband?
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
We are quickly going through the agenda today. It'd be a great opportunity if there's information sharing between board members. Now's the opportunity.
Chair Jason Hoffman here.
Yes.
Just a couple of notes from EPCO and NINA. There was a 911 day on the Hill scheduled for March 16th. We had to schedule that well in advance of the opening of the legislative session. In consultation with our lobbyist and the presidents of APCO and NINA, it was decided to cancel that day as there's no obvious message for us to bring to the legislators, no pending legislation that we have a strong stance on. And so it was decided that it was best to cancel that day at the Hill. So March 16th day at the Hill for 901 has been canceled. And the APCO and NINA conference are coming up April 4th and 5th. And so anybody that has dispatchers or other related personnel that want to go to that, or vendors who want to attend the vendor fair. It's the first one since the beginning of COVID that we're having vendors present. Expect a big turnout there. Please get signed up as soon as possible so that we can make sure we've got the correct numbers reported on food and that sort of thing. And that's all available. All that information is available at the APCO and NINA shared website, iapconina.org, I believe. Let me double check that. I don't want to give you guys bad information. Yes, .org. Yep, iaapconina.org is the website where you can find sign up information for both participants and vendors there. So, looking forward to a good conference and a good turnout there. Thank you.
Thank you. In person and back at Prairie Meadows, as I understand it, correct?
That's right. Yep. We did have an in-person fall conference, but that's usually the smaller conference of the year, and didn't have the vendor fair. So this is that was kind of the trial run to see how that went, and it seemed to go well. And now here we are with back to the full spring conference with the full vendor fair, and looking forward to seeing everybody again.
All right. Appreciate you bringing that up, Jason. Anything additional? Information sharing amongst board members? All right. We'll move on to the system administrator report. Scott, are you providing that today?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I will start off with the recent storms that we had over the last weekend. First, let me say all Isicsb sites remained operational during the storm events of March 5th. We did not have any reports from end users of any communication issues. The Lucas County site did sustain some tornado damage, however. About 4 of the 6 dishes were damaged, missing radome covers, bent dishes, that sort of thing. Motorola is arranging for a tower crew to get on the tower and assess the other 2 dishes that do appear undamaged. That site likely took a glancing blow. Chris has plotted the path of the tornado, and it was probably within 100 yards from looking at it on Google Earth. So in any case, the tower fared fairly well. As far as staying operational, we do have some repairs to make on that site, however. Other than that, the rest of the sites seem to be intact. We had people look at Madison, also the Hooper site, and do not have reports of damage at this time. I will move on to the numbers for February 2022. Radios are at 27,380. That's actually down 98 from January, and that's due to a recent radio reorganization by one of our larger Isicsb users. Talk groups are at 2,707. That's up 24 from January. And push-to-talks are at 1,978,434, and that's down about 209,000 from January. That should conclude my report, and I will take any questions.
Are those monthly numbers just based on the entire month? So February being a shorter month may explain fewer push-to-talks, for instance?
Correct. They're grabbed on the calendar month basis, so yes.
Very well. Excellent report. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll jump ahead to the FirstNet Authority and AT&T update. Kevin, you want to begin?
Very good, and good morning.
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
You're on, you bet.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hey, just wanted to pass on thanks to Holly. She's always great about sending out our updates. This month update highlights our GAO Reauthorization Report. Middle Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012 required the Government Accountability Office, or GAO, to submit a report to Congress on reauthorization of the FirstNet Authority no later than February 22nd, 2022. The report was published and the link is included in the update for this month. Also, regarding the Marshall Fire in Colorado, this actually hit home for FirstNet. We had some employees that had their homes lost, some damaged in the fire in Colorado. This link highlights the response of FirstNet and AT&T to restore coverage and the ongoing restoration efforts. We also have an article on FirstNet now covers more first responders than any other network in the country, spanning more than 2.81 million miles. A lot of good data in that article. Also highlighting our decade of dedication to public safety. We just had our 10-year anniversary, and looking forward to the next 15 for a total of 25. Another spot on the reauthorization statement on legislation for program reauthorization. Our latest podcast with our new board chair, Benjamin. He is a former mayor and also former public safety, and I'm really excited to see so many new public safety people on the board. In the past, we had a lot of technology people, and now we are kind of pivoting to a lot of people with either recently current public safety or their previous position was public safety. Another article on Z-Access from YouTube, and our next board meeting is going to be May 4th, and also a plug for the Iowa FirstNet Roadshow, which is going to be March 29th, Tuesday, at Marshalltown Fire Training Facility, Marshalltown, Iowa, from 8:30 to 4:15. So that's going to cover the progress of FirstNet in Iowa. Why FirstNet? They're going to have a guest speaker, Cedar Rapids Fire District Chief, Paramedic Curtis Wally Walsher. FirstNet Solutions, the CIO, Iowa Communications Network by Ryan Mulhall, and Telecom Sales Engineer Mike Lauer, State Interoperability Coordinator Chris Myers, Iowa Network Corey Drack, discussion on HPUE and response operations. So thank you, and I'll pass it back to you.
All right, Tyler, we have a report today as well, I assume.
Yeah, this is Bart. Tyler's on vacation this week. So a few items, 2 new tower builds, both northeast of the Fairfield area, one in Brighton, and then one just north of Purley. That was the 2 main tower builds for February. And then just a little report on the tornadoes from last Saturday. We did have some tower issues, outages, mainly power-based in southern Polk County, and then one in Mills. We stayed close to FirstNet customers in those areas, and they did not report any coverage outages. We had we had adequate nearby towers to support those outages. As of Sunday morning, everyone but 2 were up and running, and then the remaining 2 in southern Polk County were up and running by Monday morning. So everything's back to normal. Again, just kind of no structural damage, just some power issues that happened to those towers. And then finally, to what Kevin spoke about, our roadshow is coming to Marshalltown. I think, Holly, I got you the form emailed to you yesterday or this morning. There is a quick registration link. If we can get that out, that will kind of let us know who to expect, how many people. But short registration, and look forward to seeing anyone there. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Good reports, and thanks for mentioning the training opportunity upcoming in Marshalltown. All right, on to the CISA update. Jim.
Thank you. I'd like to start by echoing Swick Meyer's remarks about Iowa's public safety communications posture. Iowa is, in fact, a national leader in terms of emergency communications and emergency communications governance. In this board and its committees should be very, very proud of that. As the federal agency lead to coordinate domestic preparedness and response efforts related to Russia's threat to Ukrainian sovereignty, I have a couple of important messages from CISA. Russia's unprovoked attack on Ukraine, which has been accompanied by cyber attacks on the Ukrainian government and critical infrastructure organizations, may have consequences for our own nation's critical infrastructure. While there are no specific or credible threats to the U.S. homeland at this time, CISA is mindful of the potential for Russia's destabilizing actions to impact organizations both within and beyond the region. Every organization, large and small, must be prepared to respond to disruptive cyber activity. CISA is monitoring the threat environment 24/7 to discern whether those threats manifest themselves in risks to the U.S. homeland. In the wake of continued denial of service and destructive malware attacks affecting Ukraine and other countries in the region, we are working very closely with our partners to understand and rapidly share information on these ongoing malicious cyber activities. In the event of a major cyber incident, CISA stands ready to help organizations prevent and respond to cyber attacks. When cyber incidents or activity are reported quickly, it can contribute to stopping an attempted or underway cyber incident. This information is also critical to identifying trends that can help efforts to protect our homeland. In the chat box at the very top, I've provided links to CISA's Shields Up website. That is where you can find the most current information on this topic, and I encourage you to all click that link and bookmark it and visit it. I have also provided information on how to report a cyber incident. CISA encourages you to lower your reporting thresholds. Next, CISA urges all organizations to take certain foundational measures to implement a strong cybersecurity program. I'll summarize the top 3 of those for you. First, identify and update known security flaws in your organization's software by referencing CISA's Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog. Second, implement multi-factor authentication. Third, sign up for CISA's Cyber Hygiene Vulnerability Scanning. Information about all of these tools and other important activities can be found on our website, Free Cybersecurity Services and Tools at CISA, which should be the bottom link in the chat that I've added. On to routine business. 4 strong candidates were recently interviewed for the Region 7 Emergency Communications Coordinator position, and the interview panel has conveyed a recommendation to the hiring authority, and we are awaiting that update. And CISA is always happy to help Iowa work toward its SCIP goals, particularly with the Technical Assistance Program. At present, there are 7 incidents of technical assistance open. The COMEX, Field Operations Guide, Tactical Interoperability Communications Plan. I should be able to say that a little easier. COMEL, a Land Mobile Radio Cyber Assessment, a COMT, and an Incident Tactical Dispatcher. Thank you, and I'm happy to take your questions if you have any.
Well, Jim, on behalf of the board, I just want to again express our appreciation for CISA and all the information you share daily and in your monthly report, and recognize that while it's significant, it is doubled for you when you're serving in this interim capacity in addition to your other assignments. So greatly appreciate it. We're anxious, as I'm sure you are, to have some additional help, but appreciate you sharing the critically important cyber and other information that you do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, Sook Myers with the Standards Working Group.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. The Standards Working Group did not meet last month. We were looking at taking up some suggested edits to the Emergency Management Tactical Talk Group Standard. We are awaiting some feedback, and we're working with Mindy Benson and IAMA on gathering that feedback before we take that standard up. Mindy, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, it was presented to IEMA, Iowa Emergency Management Association. I believe it was last week or again this week. So it's going to be farmed out to the districts, and we'll just wait for a little bit of feedback on that.
All right, thank you, Mindy. And that's the report, Mr. Chair.
All right, information sharing framework.
Yes. So we had our meetings a couple of weeks ago with all of the PSAPs except for one we weren't able to get to. In that group was Jonathan Fulmer, Rob Dew, who's the project lead, and John Contestable. And also Jay Chang was a part of the group that came in from CISA. We met with Des Moines PD, Polk County, Westcom, Iowa State or Iowa DPS Communications, Warren County, Dallas County, and Ames, Story, and Iowa State Public Safety. All those meetings were highly productive, and all those agencies were able to, I think, gain just as much from the federal participants we had as the federal participants gained from the local agencies. I would look for some sort of work product to be available within the next couple of months. There's a lot of information to crunch, but really overall, those meetings, for as many we had in the 3 days that they were here, absolutely phenomenal. So again, thank you to all the PSAPs that participated, and again to any CISA participants that may be on the line with us who also participated. A lot of good work done, and a lot more good things to come.
Great, thank you. Old business. Anything we want to share on the feedback we've received on the encryption document package?
Yeah, Michelle, do you want to take that, or I can take it if you want, or?
I can take it. The feedback that we've received thus far has largely centered around the talk group names and the number of talk groups and how users will likely lay them out in their radios. So there's some that love what we've proposed, and there's some that have alternate ideas. All that will be weighed out, and the comment period's open for another 30 days. So we'd love to hear more input so that we can get the best possible product into the system. Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that about covers it. I think the only other thing maybe that's worth mentioning is it was discussed at one point about possibly some follow-up with the commenters, right? So we're not quite sure what that would look like yet.
Correct.
It's something that's under consideration as well.
Yep. Most definitely, because the idea is very widely, and suspect that there's we'd have a greater understanding of people's why they feel the way they feel, and that's often where the real meat of the issues are, not with what they've proposed, but here's the problem as they see it, and there's usually really good stuff in those types of conversations, and get the synergy of having people in the room or on a call that ideas bounce off of each other, and you end up with an even better product. So that's our thinking behind the potential of bringing commenters together.
Sounds great. Thank you for the update, and thanks for seeing that through. We're anxious to hear a recommendation or proposal coming forward.
Thank you.
All right, on to new business. And Vice Chair Dennert, I may have passed you too quickly before. Do you want to handle these new users, or where do you want Chris to?
Mr. Chair, I can.
Well, Chris, why don't you take it?
Yeah, I can take these. So we have 4 applications up for approval this month. We have Eastern Iowa Power and Light Cooperative. They signed up for level 2 access, a couple of talk groups to cover their service area. As a side note on some of these power cooperatives, we have been working with the Iowa Association of Electrical Cooperatives on kind of what their big picture is going to look like as a collective. And this application with Eastern Power and Light Co-op fits into a little bit of an overall strategic approach to helping these types of agencies gain access to Isics and use it effectively. With respect to Eastern Iowa Power and Light, specifically, their application was reviewed. Loading looked favorable in all the sites that they would be using. Palo Alto County Sheriff is looking at jumping on for level 1 access for interoperability for the Sheriff's Office radios. Again, no issues with loading with that particular application. Independence Mental Health Institute is signing up for level 2 access. They are based in Buchanan County. There's a site right there, and they were hoping to utilize Isics for a lot of their local and then also state level operations with respect to transporting patients. Sioux Center Ambulance is also signing up for level 1 access, and the loading with that one came back favorably as well. So those are the applications, Mr. Chair. I'll go ahead and take any questions on them. Otherwise, I'll pass it back to you.
All right, hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Vote in motion.
Shuffle second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we've got an opportunity for public comment. Anyone on the call with comments they want to share with the board or other participants related to interoperability? All right, hearing none, we'll adjourn the meeting at 11:15. Thank you.